history will talk about this race.
Yeah.
It is part of American history. And it was important to me that when history is written, that my voice be present.
Hey guys, so Kamala Harris is currently on a media tour to promote her new book, 107 Days. It is a memoir about how she lost the presidential election in just 107 days. I don't know how she did it, you know, in such a short time frame. No, I do know how she did it, actually. She made appearances in public, and the more people got to know her, the more they disliked her. But she's on The View, and she went on The View, she went on MSNBC, she went on Stephen Colbert back in August, to basically cope about why she lost. She has a lot of excuses, and she also has a very interesting way of framing the election. So I want to play this clip for you, where she really emphasizes just how close the election was, which it wasn't, by the way, but I'll get into that.
And by the way, another piece of what is unprecedented and a bit historical about that race, it is the closest presidential race in the 21st century in terms of the outcome.
Wow.
The closest.
You know, say that again, because he likes to say over and over again he's got a mandate.
And that's part of why I wrote this book, because history will talk about this race. It is part of American history. And it was important to me that when history is written, that my voice be present about what that experience is.
You know, she's so narcissistic, it actually slightly boggles my mind. Like, I understand it comes with the territory of being a politician, but what about Kamala Harris's voice is worth preserving in history? You know, what what do our grandchildren need to know about Kamala Harris besides the fact that, you know, she was a DEI pick? Anyway, that should be the primary thing that she's remembered for. It probably will be, since even her supporters can't really name, like, a single real accomplishment of hers. But as to her main claim, you know, Donald Trump won the popular vote by nearly 2 million votes. He had over 80-something more electoral college votes than Kamala did. So, you know, you can try to justify it any way you want, but the truth is he does have a mandate. So sorry, Anna, there's really not much more to say about that. But I do want to look at some other clips because, I'll be honest, I love The View. I love getting the views of a bunch of, you know, aging harpies, which is, that's a little bit harsh, but maybe not untrue. Okay, let me go to the next clip. Okay, so the other big narrative that Kamala launches into in The View is that America was just too racist and too sexist to support her, and they weren't ready for a woman of color of her tremendous intellect. So let's watch that.
You know, a lot of people, I'm included, and President Biden also, think that a lot of it is about racism and sexism, and those are the reasons that you really lost, not because of the time thing. What do you say to that? Do you think this country will ever elect a woman president? In my lifetime, probably not.
I beg to differ. I believe that we will. And listen, you know this, and I've been honored to be on this show many times and talk with this esteemed group. Every office I've held, I've been the first. Usually the first woman, and then often the first woman and the first person of color. The only time actually I was the second, when I was the second Black woman ever elected to the United States Senate in its hundreds of years history. So I'm not naive. Race and gender do play a factor in some people's minds about how they vote. But my history tells me, because I have been the first in all of those, that people ultimately want to know that this is the best person to do the job, and that's their focus, and that's how I've always run. I've never...
And that's exactly why the American people did not pick you, Kamala. This whole discussion is so stupid, it's so dumb. Kamala does what pretty much every DEI pick does, which is to say, on the one hand, you know, I'm gonna brag about how I was the first to do this, and I was the first to do that. I was the first woman, I was the first Indian woman, I was the first Black woman, I was the first woman ever in history. But then on the other hand, she says, you know, well, I was really just the most qualified person for the job, and they were just picking the person who would do the best, yada yada. I mean, those two things are not inherently in conflict, but she's acknowledging that, you know, being the first XYZ comes with, you know, is an accolade in and of itself in 21st century America. But I just find it absurd that we're talking about basically, you know, parceling out the presidency on the basis of, oh, you know, which group hasn't been president yet? Okay, time to give it to the Hmong lesbians because they've never had a president in America. Instead of talking about, well, you know, who's going to lead our country? Who's going to be the best person to do that? Who's going to be commander-in-chief? And yeah, I don't think sex is irrelevant to that. Like, there's a reason why every president of the United States has been a man, and I don't think that's a bad thing. But there's just this huge entitlement on display here, as if Kamala is owed the presidency, or as if some woman or some woman of color is owed the presidency, that I find really off-putting. And by the way, even if Kamala were qualified, calling The View like an esteemed panel would instantly disqualify her because her judgment skills are off, are not correct in a severe way.
Run as a woman or as a person of
I know, but
color.
you and Hillary
I have run
Clinton-
because I believe
Hold on.
I'm the best to do the job.
Hold on, let me go. We're coming right back with more with Kamala Harris.
All right. Thanks, Whoopi. All right, so last but certainly not least, I want to turn to the primary excuse that Kamala is using in the book, in the media tour, about why she lost. You could see it right there in the title of the book, 107 Days. And that excuse is that she just did not have enough time. And of course, because she's on The View, because she only does friendly media appearances, you know, they're going to basically accept this without question. So let's watch some of that.
Philadelphia rally the night before, and I was sitting behind your husband, Doug, and Maya and your family. And I remember hugging them and them telling me, we got this. I felt so good going into Election Day, and then I read in the book that you did too. I went into Election Day thinking you were going to win.
Yeah.
So did you.
Yeah, I did.
So, I mean, it was a very tight race, but ultimately, if you have to pin it down to one thing, what was the primary reason, do you think, that you lost?
There are many factors, I think, that played into the outcome of that election. But I think probably one of the biggest in my mind is we just didn't have enough time.
You didn't have
We didn't have enough time. We didn't have enough time.
Oh, yeah. Well, you didn't.
And, you know, I mean, one of the reasons I wrote the book is this is unprecedented. Think about this.
Yeah.
That there's a race for president of the United States. The current sitting president is running for re-election. 3.5 months from the election, he decides not to run. The sitting vice president then takes the mantle, running against a former president of the United States who had been running for 10 years with 107 days until the election. And by the way, another piece of what is unprecedented and a bit historical about that race.
Okay, so we get it. The race was unprecedented and the race was historical. And, you know, some of the things that she mentioned are fair. Like, yes, Trump was a 2-term president who did not serve consecutively. That's extremely rare in American history. Biden's, you know, cognitive decline and Kamala stepping in, all of that is really interesting, but I sincerely doubt that Kamala is going to give us the sort of answers that people were looking for. I don't even know if she read her own memoir. Based on some of the excerpts, it's hard to believe that she did, because it paints her in such an unflattering light. Like, one of the anecdotes in the book is about Pete Buttigieg and how she didn't pick him because he was gay, and, you know, it's too big a risk because she's already black and she's a woman, and, you know, America, they're not going to go for that. And it just seems like a terrible optics move, regardless of, you know, the veracity of that. But that is Kamala's entire shtick, you know, and that's also what The View does, is basically whine about men and about Americans and how they're not with the times and it's all their fault for everything and they don't need to change anything about themselves. So it's actually the perfect pairing. I could see Kamala becoming a permanent fixture on The View. And honestly, I think she would do well there. Certainly better than, you know, serving as vice president. But I could see her opining about pop culture issues, about... I don't really know what else The View talks about now that I think about it. I mean, they like to talk about Trump, and then, you know, they recommend, like, Latina fantasy romance novels, I think is the other half of their show. But yeah, I look forward to seeing Kamala Harris's illustrious career in daytime television. But let me know what you think of her appearance on The View in the comment section below. Give this video a like, hit subscribe, and I will see you in the next video.